Guys, we are going to have a discussion on that one thing in our week that needs to work. And I'm sure you guys know what that is. Any guesses?
Monday morning coffee with my wife, definitely.
Saturday evening sleep.
Oh, come on, Martin.
Tuesday
please.
meetings. Tuesday team meetings.
No, take another round, please.
Just tell us what you want us to talk about.
Okay,
Nagel.
today we're going to talk about rehearsals, effective rehearsals.
It's good if they work as well.
We all need effective rehearsals to be able to minister on Sundays and to minister well. So if we use the word effective, it implies that certain things must happen or be in place for us to be able then to stand back and say, this was not just an okay rehearsal, but it was a good rehearsal, an effective rehearsal. So you guys sitting around this table, you have years of experience in leading worship.
Well, tops, yes.
Yeah, tops.
Well, some.
Just see the grey hair tops.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
some.
And also experience in terms of leading rehearsals. So what have you discovered? What is that one thing that you have discovered? And what would you say differentiates a okay rehearsal from a rehearsal that is good, that is excellent?
I would say there's many elements of the discussion, many elements of a rehearsal evening. For me, I would probably start with just my preparation going into the evening and what that would look like.
Yeah.
Knowing who I'm working with for the evening, and that entails from the technical side of things, because a lot of times I've found that I have these big aspirations for a great evening of rehearsals with my team, only just to find that we have a lot of technical difficulties, and that creates a ton of frustration on the side. So that's just one of the elements I would say for me that's quite necessary, is to prepare that end of things.
Yeah. So I hear, Martin, that you say that there's a lot of preparation that takes place even before the evening starts.
But I think you need to know what you want to achieve on a Thursday or whatever night.
Yeah.
But if we use Thursday night as one of the majority kind of focus areas for worship teams, I think I found myself for too long just thinking if we can just manage 5 songs in a row that has some kind of flow on a Sunday. It doesn't matter what songs.
So you wanted to polish the songs for
It's
the
just
Sunday.
because the expectation is if Sunday works and those songs are just from one to the end, everybody knows, and maybe it plays from the same chart when we do the songs, you know. That was initial times, that was the only win. And I think there's some truth to it still, but you need to know, and I think that is an interesting question that we have to discuss, because if that's our only aim, it's a whole nother Thursday evening.
Exactly.
If we are, and then that's where it becomes tricky, if we are building a team, creating a culture, raising leaders, equipping people for ministering, and then all the other ones that will scare me if I mention them now, then suddenly the preparation Martin is referring to is a whole day event.
Exactly.
Because the potential of that time when you get creative, wonderful, strange, eccentric, committed, passionate people for 2 hours in one room, it's like a nuclear bomb. You either make it work for you or it works against you. And you need to prepare well, knowing what the potential is and what it is that you want to reach.
So I hear there are many elements to a rehearsal.
Definitely.
Yeah. Eugene,
Many outcomes.
What would you say? How do you think about rehearsals, and in your planning and preparation, how do you approach rehearsals?
I think for me, they are the ideals that we always dream about, and then you actually work with normal people. And I think for me, the win in a rehearsal is that everybody comes to a rehearsal with different mindsets, different days behind them. And for me, the win is if you can move those people from a place of disconnectedness, from not having a vision, to the end of the rehearsal of unity, of musical like excellence and relational relational connection. In the
Yeah,
end, they have a clear vision of what's going to happen on Sunday. God has been speaking to us. We have been preparing spiritually as well. So I think it's that three things for me. The musical part of it, obviously, we have to do.
Yes.
A lot of work.
Playing from the same charts.
Yes.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And it's the most frustrating thing when someone comes to rehearsal and they ask you, what songs are we doing? Have you ever experienced that?
What key?
In what key, yes. So musicality is obviously a massive thing, but then also that spiritual part of it. And the weight sometimes must lie on that, so that we make sure that our team is spiritually prepared for the ministry that needs to happen. And then also that relational connectedness. People come there, they are tired, they are worn out from the day.
Yeah.
They have difference in opinions. And
Things happening at home
Yes.
and at work.
No, life
and
happens.
yeah, so the win for me is if those three things are in place in a rehearsal, I think it's not, you don't get the ideal every time, but I mean,
I like the way
focus on
you
that.
summarize, because if you think about a rehearsal, you can and what's all the elements you have to give attention to. It can really be overwhelming. But if you think about it, like I have to prepare musically, spiritually, and relationally.
Yes.
It's sort of like a better package, to work from. And while you were talking, Eugene, as well, I was thinking that we must always remember that we work with people. You work with people. You can be so, goal-driven and outcome-driven that you forget that you work with people. And so I think that is a big thing. So let's unpack it a little bit more. If we say we have to prepare spiritually, what would that look like? Where do you start? How do you prepare spiritually as a leader for a meeting? Do you worship? Do you pray? Lord, please help us tonight. Where do you start?
Lord, please help this drummer.
I think for me, the thing of spiritual preparation, if you just give that over to the team, you'll get many different opinions of where we should actually focus our attention on spiritually. But I think as a leader, you carry the vision of the ministry team actually from a Tuesday team meeting. And I think the first step in spiritual preparation is to bring that vision to the worship team and to help them to digest some of that and to make that their own.
And give context.
Yes.
So I think there's the preparation for Sunday to give spiritual context for that, because they have to minister, they have to communicate, so they must have context. Yes. And then also spiritual investment. I've said in my one of my sessions that we have to align our artistic team members with the vision of the church, where we are going, where we are heading. So I think the same principle applies in terms of spiritual preparation. The team must know where we are going spiritually.
I think why this is so important is if you think about the time allocated to the worship set on a Sunday, it's half of the day.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
So if you have a preacher tell you, you know what, I took 5 minutes out and I just quickly glanced through a verse, and I remembered that I read it a few years ago. I'm ready for Sunday sermon. You'll go, no, buddy, you're gonna. I'm not listening to you unless you've prepared 4, 5, or 6 hours on your sermon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in the worship team, we sometimes think, if we just go through the songs the night before, then half of the service time has got the most ineffective mindset of preparation spiritually. So you don't want an unspiritual part to a Sunday service.
Yeah.
So if we do not extend the vision and the outcome of the Sunday, that's what we talk about when you do set lists and stuff.
Yeah.
What is the aim for the Sunday? Are we in the same kind of spirit? And if we are not carrying all the people, I always say it's much easier to preach than to get the worship team ready, because a preacher is the only one who gets himself or herself ready for that message.
Yeah.
But the worship leader has to get the whole team of
you're
5
working
to
with a
10
team,
people, and they must all have the same heart. That's much harder work.
Yes.
But I think that's why the spiritual preparation is not we'll get to it at some stage.
Yeah.
If you're not ready with this, you might be completely out of alignment with what happens.
So there's that spiritual understanding, that spiritual insight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And many times you get, the team always, they want to know why we chose these songs. And we have to almost carry that prophetic weight in the moment to explain. This is the idea, this is the vision behind it. What do you guys think? What do you guys experience with a bigger team of the church? I think many times artists can think they have the spiritual answer for everything, and it's amazing to get everyone to buy into that.
And ownership.
Ownership.
Yeah.
And then you can pray about it and worship together on that and get input from the team. But to get, you said context, I think is the starting point of spiritual preparation.
Yeah, I think, Dobbs, you've said such an important thing. So much time of the service is dedicated to worship. So we have to make sure that we prepare well spiritually and have context.
But I think to get a big group of people to stay connected to that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Martin, your worship team has always been humongous. How do you, because I think you've done a lot of effort in trying to keep them all together. It's easy if it's 10 people around a table, but if it's 100+ people at times, how do you focus on that?
Yeah.
I think we've found that to try and accomplish all 3 of those goals every Thursday evening in equal amounts of success, if we can, is for us isn't necessarily achievable.
Yes.
And so we've just said, why don't we switch up our rhythm of getting together and saying, for 3 weeks in a row, we'll have a normal Thursday rehearsal where we take a time of investment in terms of the message of the song. And one of the things I want to add on to is just to have a time of devotion with the entire team and say, listen, the songs that we're singing, the worship prophetically, and for me as an individual, how am I connecting to this?
Yes.
Sure.
How am I connecting? Not them or us, but me personally, and make it personal, and encourage them to take what we're singing to heart and say, okay, listen, maybe there's something for this week that you really want to go and meditate on before we get together again on a Sunday. And so we'll take on a normal Thursday rehearsal, we'll spend some time on that, and then practicing the songs together and actually rehearsing them, putting them together as a team. But what I want to get to is we have this rhythm at the campus that I'm in where we would once a month not have a musical rehearsal at all for that week. And we only focus on the spiritual investment and the relational investment.
Okay.
And we call it impartation evening. We have a family time where we have fun together. We have a spiritual investment. We share life together. But I think it's in between, not just the formal activities. Just the time that we as a worship team get together before a service or in between services.
Yeah.
How do we use that time
Yes.
and facilitate conversation and be real with each other about what we're actually going to do? Or are we just the musicians that's hanging back backstage and just waiting for our moment to go on stage?
Yeah.
So that's quite an important thing for me to make space for those different moments.
Yeah. I like the word impartation. It says a lot. For you as a leader, you have to have that impartation into your people. They catch the spirit of the leader. And it's not always a Thursday evening rehearsal thing. You are in relationship with your people, and so it's an ongoing process. Otherwise, it also becomes like, mechanically. We quickly have to do this at the rehearsal.
Because the fact is, we can be very spiritual about it, but we have a certain amount of time available. And people, and if I think about people's time that they give and that they are part of, they drive from work, they skip going home to their families, and they come because they value being part of this team so much that they want to be there. So how do we use that time effectively, and make them feel valued and make them feel like they can have a significant part of be part of this
ministry and church.
And also to honor them, and I'm also thinking about the preparation before the time and the excellence thing, because we all know that saying that says excellence inspires people and it glorifies God. So it's so, once again, it's so important to know that you're going to receive people, as they come from work and so on. So maybe we can chat a little bit about preparing in terms of relationships for rehearsals, relationally. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I think it's critical that we talk how and why, because I think sometimes, because it's a bunch of very creative people and then tired after a long week, and then suddenly the firewalls are broken.
They can be very high
Yeah.
or very low.
Yes, so you don't know what's coming through the front door. But conflict is very rampant amongst tired creative people.
Yes.
And we've seen how tension on stage when we have to worship is actually just killing the
Exactly.
whole thing.
It's a
So
hindrance.
that's what relationship has to be strong.
It kills unity.
Absolutely. And
That's a
then
big
without unity, you're dead
Unity is
anyway.
everything.
So I think that's why we should never underestimate the value of it. I'm saying that because when you are in a rush or under pressure to get the Sunday worship so well, the first thing that go is the relational focus and the spiritual one. And we're just going to go for the excellence and the
Yeah.
musical expression. But I think why we have to talk about relational input is if I'm going through a tough time and I'm not my all sparkly self behind the bassist, and then the other people can see it, if they know me,
Yeah.
and they know I've just lost my job last week and I'm going through a tough time,
Yeah.
then they'll approach that unity in a different way than going, listen, shape up because you're bringing us all down.
Yes. Yeah.
We have to work relational because that unity is so important. And I think especially when the pressure is high, to make it work relational, we have to invest. And I think therefore, what you were saying about those times, people have to know one another.
Yes.
We are not a social club, but we have to socially engage.
Yeah.
And sometimes bring people together so that context of personal environments makes sense, so that every person can rather be carried in a difficult time and not in a way feel irritated by and despised or judged in that moment.
I try to teach the younger worship leaders or the new worship leaders, before you engage on any level, you first have to quickly just look everyone in the eye and ask yourself, what do I need to know about this person before I lead them tonight? And just ask that question.
That's very good.
Where are you? What's happening?
It opens
And
the
immediately,
conversation.
immediately it gives you information to lead them well in the evening. And it creates that quick moment of just, I can relax. The ice is broken. kind of.
Somebody is praying for me.
Yeah.
And people want to be known, Want to feel important. That's why I've said earlier, we must remember we're working with people.
They want
all
to feel
the time.
valued.
Yeah.
I find myself too often being too task orientated because I have. I know it's surprise.
I would never
It's a
have known.
confession.
Yeah.
Confession time now.
But because in the reality of it is, I have this much time for a rehearsal for our morning service, this much time for a devotional, this much time for an evening rehearsal, and then we have to be done because we can't make noise past a certain time. So
You come from Brooklyn campus.
Brooklyn. So we've got certain limitations in that regard, and I find myself too often, I have to stop and just get past that goal for a moment, because the fact is, I've said this many times, that there will always be another Sunday.
Yeah.
Literally forever.
Yes.
There will always be another song, another new hit song, another new track, another new
Yes.
song to learn, to rehearse, whatever. But the people that we do this with, that form this church, that we share our lives with, that's something that makes such a huge impact on the long term.
Yeah.
And I've been a part of Brooklyn campus for a really long time now, and I've seen the fruit of just investing, and caring for people
Yes.
for a long time. And I've also made many mistakes where I've realized only afterwards, I should have stopped there. I should have paid attention to that moment. And the musical side of it, for a moment can
Yes.
just come second to the relationship.
Yeah.
There are times where we
You
have
can
to say,
always
no, come
pick
on,
that up
now,
again.
now we're not a social club. Now
Yes.
we work together.
Yeah.
But I think that's,
Yeah.
and it depends on your leadership style maybe.
Yeah.
That you should say, where should I be more aware of that I'm normally not focused?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think Paul said it very beautifully in Ephesians, where he says, guard the unity
Yes.
of the Spirit. The unity is already there.
Yeah.
We should guard it as a leader.
Yes.
So I always have this saying, or my wife has this saying, you never discipline a kid in Pick and Pay, because that it won't work.
Checkers is fine, but not
Not Pick and Pay. But the concept is you can't address those very difficult relational things
Yes.
in the rehearsal itself.
Yeah.
In that moment, you actually need to absorb that tension as a leader
Yes.
and make a decision where should we take a conflict or a moment of discipline or whatever, because people want to feel valued in that moment.
Yes. And as leaders, we need emotional intelligence
to deal with that.
because people that are difficult sometimes, or quiet,
Yeah.
or whatever the attitude may be, there's a reason behind that.
Yes.
And I think the pressure to build a relational unit is tough.
Yeah, definitely.
I at one stage realized in the team that I was the worship leader that I felt a little short-chained, that I can't really relationally connect to everyone. And I think we should be wise as leaders to create a relational environment. You can't be the shepherd to everyone.
It's impossible.
So at one
Yes.
stage, we realized there were people with strong shepherding gifts in the worship team or in the ministry team, and get them to start caring for others. If your team becomes really big, you can never be the counselor to every
No,
person
it's
in the worship
impossible.
team. That's going to kill you. But just ask the question and get your leaders together, I would suggest, and ask the question, are we relationally strong? Who are the people with those gifting, and what can we do to build a strong family connection? Sometimes somebody who's not a lead instrument player or singer at all, but in the worship team can play that role and bring that care component. The leader of that ministry must bring the vision, and nobody else like that leader. But in terms of the other realities, and we'll get to the spiritual that we just covered, people are strong in the word. You can give a lot of opportunity. That the tension is not, if you are the worship leader and you have to do all those moments, I think we have to say that. It's going to kill you very quickly. You have to get the
definitely.
people to help spiritually tonight. This one is going to share word. This one is going to pray for us
Yes.
tonight. This one is going to do investment. This person is going to care for others. This another person is the prayer leader. All prayer requests to her or to him, not to me. So I think it's about building the culture where these elements are healthy and not trying to be the person that does all of this.
I love what
Building
you're
a team.
saying, because sometimes I hear worship leaders say, there's always this guy that he struggles to get to a rehearsal. And then I ask him, but do they actually have a role to fulfill besides just music, Do they come with a job? Do they come with a calling?
Responsibility,
not playing an
Ownership
instrument, but beyond that actually. Then they will come
True.
if they have responsibility.
Sense of significance is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are creative people. I've mentioned it earlier as well. There's about 100 one another concepts in the Bible. Dish out one or two every week and get your team to practice that.
Care for one another, love one
Care
another,
for one
support
another,
one
love,
another.
support.
Kiss one another.
No, almost.
No, that's the marriage course.
Kiss them with a holy
Whole
kiss.
nother-
Yeah. Okay, if we talk about the music side of things, I think that's where.
Why are you looking at me?
We're all looking at you.
Because I know what Martin is going to say.
Qualified.
He's going to say,
By the way, just say, yes.
he's going to
Never
say the
tell.
following. I'm going to quote him. He's going to say, you can't teach someone to play drums on a Thursday evening.
That's deep, man. That's deep.
Okay.
Just go slowly through that.
Okay, Martin is going to go deeper with that just now. But if we look at preparation for the musical side of things, I think there's a list of things that's also important that must happen. The question I want to ask is, what preparation is the leader's responsibility, and what do we expect from the musicians, from the singers, from the tech team, from the multimedia, or am I going too far now?
Way too far. You lost me at leader.
What do we expect? What do we expect from a worship leader to prepare for a rehearsal in terms of the music and so on, the charts?
I think, the charts, well, if the worship leader is doing it, I haven't delegated that.
Yeah.
But I think the analogy that Rick Moser spoke of helped us in the different stages, and used the rugby team.
Because we're all sporty
Yes,
all
rugby
rugby
players.
Yeah.
definitely.
Every rugby team has 3 stages of engagement. The gym time is where every person is preparing on their own to get themselves ready. And a strong person then engages the practice time in the week when everybody has to come together to work the game plan out and get that unity. And then when they play the game on the Saturday is the execution. So we would say you practice yourself as a musician. For the rehearsal in the week, we come together for the Sunday execution. And I think we are very eagerly discussing the efficiency of that rehearsal time. But a person with weak arms, no energy, very unhealthy, is going to find him or herself frustrated on a Thursday night or whatever night, and frustrating everyone else. Because if you run as a scrum and the one person is huffing and puffing because he can't stick with the game plan, we see that in musicianship. One person opens up and asks what song, and the other guy on guitar knows it all off by heart.
Yes.
And that tension is a severe tension
Yeah.
if a team player is not acting as a team player. So I think the whole musician, preparing for that night, is, I think even more so when there's a lot of people. You need to exactly know how that night is going to run musically.
Yes.
Because you always have the person that's still learning guitar sitting in the back seat, and they last about 2-3 weeks, unless they're engaged in a system.
Yeah.
And many other examples. I don't want to go
Yes.
because I'll get all teary-eyed, thinking of all the mistakes we made. But I think there's something very crucial to ask about the individual discussion. We can maybe go into that. And for us, just to pull it all together, that's probably the hardest work.
Yes.
What needs to get done and who's going to do it? And tick the boxes off very well.
Yeah.
As a teacher, I was a teacher for 3 years. Some of the longest hours in my life was when I walked into the class and 30 kids are sitting in front of me for an hour, and I realize I've not prepared for this lesson. I've got no idea what I'm going to do for an hour. Those hours felt like months.
That's nerve-wracking.
Yes, and those rehearsals as well. When you go, I don't know the song well myself. I need to teach it now, and I'm not sure really what to tell the band to do. Same when teaching. I've walked into classrooms where I couldn't wait to get everybody on board with what I prepared, and it felt like 5 minutes was gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rehearsals were the same.
Excited, ready.
The joy, I think Jannie Dekas taught us that years ago, the joy of the discipline means that you can't wait for the execution. An unprepared person walking into that space are wasted after 3 years, want to leave ministry, and it's not because of the work, it's because of the lack of the discipline to prepare well.
Well, and I think something you said is just the communication to my team. What do I expect of them? As a team, what have we decided is the minimum requirement for us to play together? So if you want to, are we going to play this level, or is it okay for a season because we want to grow the team to be okay with this and involve more people and slowly rise to this level of excellence? Because I found a lot of the younger worship leaders that I've encountered and have had conversations with that still has a small team are putting such a high expectation of excellence, bordering on perfectionism, on their team to say, listen, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. If we can't do this, then we can't. Then you can't be part of the team. And I think that's sometimes short-sighted because we are doing this for a long term. We have a long-term vision.
Yes.
There's always going to be
somewhere
another
with the
Sunday. It's going to continue forever. And so for me to say, listen, for my team, this is what I expect of you.
Yes.
This is what I expect of myself, and this is what you can expect from me.
Make a commitment to them to feel secure that when they get there, what can they expect? And it brings safety and it brings structure.
Exactly. So for us, the preparation starts probably 2 weeks prior, where we, with my team that prepare the songs in advance, we do it in a 2-weekly rhythm. We would every week we would work on 2 weeks worth of songs, and we would go through and we would put as much of the preparation and planning actually on a very tangible place on Planning Center, and write out what we want to do, who's leading what song, so that they can see. Because if they don't know
Can't prepare.
You can't tell them that morning, hey, by the way, you're leading a song, or that evening when they walk into the rehearsal, and then be upset when they're unprepared.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's one of my pet peeves is if a drummer asks me what's the tempo of a song,
Yes.
he knows I'm not going to be happy with him because
Yeah.
I am not the drummer.
Yes.
And so, but I have communicated that to him. Listen, this is your responsibility. This is your world. You are the engine behind the worship team.
You're the timekeeper,
So timekeeper, that's you.
Yeah.
We have somebody in one of the leaders in the worship team who's in charge of all the multi-tracks. So it's his job to prepare them, to test it. And in the beginning, we would get to a rehearsal and the song would be in the wrong key or the tempo or the tracks didn't align properly and it would waste time. And I realized that it's not his mistake. I have not explained my expectation properly to him.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and say, okay, look, listen, this is what we want to prepare.
Yeah.
And how can I empower you? How can I help you to prepare well for that?
You're a leader. You have to
The
lead.
blessing of multi-tracks, I mean, is the fact that you can actually empower the team
Yeah.
with their stems or their part to actually go and just listen to that and rehearse it on their own.
But I'm curious, if I may ask, something that I struggled with the rehearsal is to really incorporate everyone. Because the people that are on the team for Sunday, so say as an average you have 20 people in the worship, 25, and you have 7 or 8 of them on the Sunday.
Yeah.
They are behind instruments. It's very easy what their role is. You make sure that amp works and you play the right chords and the arrangement. Very easy. You don't even have to say it now.
Yeah. So what do you do with
Well,
the
supposed
rest?
to. Let's assume as much.
Let's not assume things.
Okay, let's not assume. But I mean, of all the people who are likely to know what their job is musically, the people for the Sunday know they have to cover it. But I've had now this growth conversation, which I think a lot of people have these days. Yes, in some environments you are begging a friend and a neighbor to come and just hold a guitar so that it looks like somebody plays what is on the track, recorded. But if you have a development area, I think a lot of churches these days, if it grows a little bit and you influence this creativity and expression kind of culture that we spoke about in different sessions, and now they are there, but they need to feel significant even though for 2 months they're not going to be on stage.
Yeah. Sure.
So what we have done, we're in a scenario right now with this whole thing of, well, we're not a music school. We are not the gym. We tell people, go to the gym and then come here. Right. But the skill of playing together is just as great a skill as learning to play my instrument individually.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
And sometimes I find that that's a big hurdle for people to get past. The pressure of now I'm actually playing along with people, and if I make a mistake, everybody's going to notice, and I feel insecure, etc. And so, how can my rehearsal space be a safe space for people to make a mistake in, and be okay with that, and I can give feedback? And so, what we've done is for somebody that's for instance, a developing drummer, to say, listen, here's one song that you can go prepare this week, and during the rehearsal time, there's not going to be a pressure for the Sunday to play on the Sunday. There's a drummer that's playing on Sunday, but for the rehearsal, there's a 10-minute slot where you can take that song and you can play it with a band. And if it's chaos or a circus, then it's okay. Nobody's
Only 10 minutes of chaos.
10 minutes of chaos. But and I personally I struggled with that because I felt like, wait a minute, but now I have to do that for everybody. But everybody's not asking for it yet. And so let's be that environment where people can come and feel safe
feel
in.
safe.
As John Piper said, brothers, we are not professionals. Let's be that environment for people to actually develop in and feel safe in. Because just the question, where did we all start?
Yeah.
Who was gracious with us?
Yeah, but Eugene was born with a piano.
He was just born with a piano. He was,
The rest of us, yeah.
But I mean, I have to remind myself of that.
And you have to communicate that value to the bigger team. Like
Yes.
For 10 minutes, you're gonna have to step back
Yeah.
and actually empower someone else to develop.
And celebrate it.
Celebrate.
Saying, listen, we've got somebody coming in, they're being part of the team, they're starting. Because let's face it, if a guitar player hangs in the back and just plays, if he plays the wrong chord, it's very easy to kind of hide that in the mix, right?
Yes.
And to make him feel safe. But something like drums is very prominent. You can't hide that. It's right there in the front and center.
That snare drum cuts through Bone and
soul.
marrow.
Bone and marrow.
Yeah.
Two-edged sword.
Yeah.
And so to celebrate it and say, hey team, listen, we've got this person coming in. Let's celebrate her. Let's welcome that person in.
It's because of a relational culture already in place,
Already in place.
where that can be celebrated.
Yeah.
And we know it's not going to be perfect yet, and it's okay.
But
Because
great moments where you can give them
Yeah.
opportunity to engage.
Yeah. I think to end off our discussion, otherwise we're going to go on forever. I remember the first production many years ago that I was involved in Doxa Deo. It was a short drama production, and I had to say one sentence. And that sentence was, between desire and delight, there's a lot of discipline.
oh yes.
So that's hard.
So yeah, so
And did you nail it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
It was all the discipline.
Yeah, but I've learned a lot from that, especially for us as artists. We need to understand that and get a revelation of that.
True.
That to be a prophetic voice and to be able to communicate, we have to be disciplined. We have
Absolutely.
to prepare. Thanks for your time. It was awesome to chat to
Awesome.
you. We'll do so in future again.
Yeah, cool.
Bless you.
Cheers.
Ons sal sê daai te bekend.